and welcome. This is Kevin, also known as AWOL, and we're back with actually making a bracelet that combines two patterns. This time it was pattern 1783 and 2135, both on friendshipbracelets.net. You may have noticed there at the beginning, I had to transfer the purples over to the right-hand side and the red over to the left. There's like three purple strands that go to the right, and two reds and a single black go to the left-hand side to kind of balance it up, so that way the two, it's two designs in one, so it kind of condenses all the colors of one onto the other side. Starts out, it's a bit complicated to kind of get it started, but once I got it going, not too terrible. I kind of expected a bit of a problem with the left-hand side being very repetitive and using a lot of the zigzag knots. And yeah, it is a little bit tricky there. Also, the way that the red in the center, it's just zigzags back and forth through the whole thing. Now that particular strand in the middle gets used an awful lot and was really short by the time I got done with this. So yeah, it was a little bit daunting to say the least, but because the pattern is really repetitive, once you kind of get it figured out, it's not so bad. The other part that kind of adds a little bit to the difficulty was that on the right hand side there is a great big zigzag going on, and it cuts into where that red row is, so I had to be cautious to not try to do too much on the left hand side without taking into account where it was going to be with what is happening on the right. Does that make sense? As we get a little further on, I can kind of show you what areas in general that I'm talking about, but yeah, I did follow the pattern along. I didn't have to do anything like crossing off or whatever, because everything is so distinct. There's like big cues of what's going on to make it kind of easier to kind of tell where you are in the pattern at any given time, particularly because of the pattern that's on the right hand side. The left hand side is so repetitive, you can kind of, for the most part, just keep doing it, except for, see this white row that's coming in, it comes down and it crosses into that red line that's coming down the middle. And I think it kind of makes it a little bit more interesting. Like normally when we split up and put two bracelet patterns together, you make it so that way one side dominates over the other side, right? So there's no kind of switching it up. But in this one, we allowed the one element of the pattern on the right to kind of cross into that space. And I think it really, really makes it a lot more interesting, because some of these, when you're matching two patterns together, it can be a little forced. It can kind of look like, you know, you're trying to do something that's, you know, not naturally occurring with the bracelets. But this kind of adds an extra little element to it, where it seems that only one portion of that pattern expands beyond its normal boundary, which I really think kind of adds a whole different kind of layer or effect to this bracelet. In fact, I'm kind of interested in exploring other designs that, you know, might work out like that. And I think it'd be kind of fun. Overall though, the whole bracelet took about 90 minutes to make, which is a little bit longer for a bracelet this size for me. Mind you, I was distracted. I was watching anime. I've gotten back into One Piece again, and I kind of, because Netflix had done that series, I wanted to go back and watch the original anime version and kind of get reacquainted with some of the characters that we would see in the series. So yeah, that was kind of fun. But so yes, a little bit distracted. but I still think that what really kind of made it take longer is the fact that there's very little in the form of segment knotting, like where you can just work on one big area. There's a bit with the right hand side, but overall it's kind of a little fiddly because of how you can only get so far ahead before you have to work the center line again, and it is a more difficult pattern overall. Again, it's a case of individually either of these two patterns are relatively simple. It's only when we mix them together that it becomes more difficult. And I think that's a good thing. I think it makes it fun to kind of go beyond the norm and try something completely new and different. I don't know. It could be just me. I think though, if you watch my videos, you can get some ideas of things that you might want to try yourself, and maybe you come up with some pattern designs that you wouldn't have come up with, otherwise. And again, I think this is the kind of pattern here that if you're already really good at friendship bracelet making, maybe give this thing a try. I think it was pretty cool. Oh, and the right hand side, right? Because it doesn't do that much. There's like two where the pattern kind of comes off to the right, and then there's the center one. It like happens like so kind of quickly that it kind of felt like it was going by really quick, but obviously 90 minutes it wasn't that quick. But yeah, there is something about the fact that the patterns are so completely different. Now, if I had a pattern that's similar to the left over on the right hand side, we might have had a lot harder time seeing where we were at any given point and knowing, like what is coming up next by watching the pattern as I was working. So yeah, that kind of made it a whole lot easier for me. And the fact that the pattern on the left just seems to just keep doing the same thing again and again, that too was kind of a little bit easier. Like once I kind of got the hang of what it's doing and making those little white diamonds in there, and the choice of doing like the additional blacks for the one strings for the left hand side, definitely that made it a little bit easier, because they can kind of switch either direction for the knots. It just made that whole area just really simple. And yeah, so the strings that were the shortest was the red that came down the center and the two white ones that zigzag over on the right hand side. So those strings, you want to make sure, like if you are the type that tries to cut them kind of to size of what you're doing, those are the ones that you really have to kind of watch for. Again, I cut my string in thirds, so a third of a skein, so that way I don't have to worry about it so much. But I do know that there are people out there who are trying to be a little bit more conservative, and yeah, again, I don't know that necessarily saves you anything in the long run. Like, it's just, I don't know. I think I've talked about it enough before, but I just don't see, if you end up with a scrap piece of string at the end of it that's just short, you can't use it in a bracelet anyways. I don't understand why. I mean, I guess there are those bracelets where the short pieces can be turned into like I think they call it the rug pattern or rug something or other. I don't know. I've never made one. I know how to do it. It's not that hard, but yeah, I end up with a scrap that's about that, that's at the end of it, I don't know. It just, seems to me like it would be a whole lot easier if you just start with strings that are long enough. That's just my take. Oh, this is, yeah, so there's you see it on the right hand side, the two things coming down. That means this is the third one. This is the center. So this one, that middle piece kind of gets all done out differently, right? So, and it's not like you have to actually kind of look for it to see how different that is, but I do think it definitely adds something. It shows you that there was an intent for a center and making it symmetrical, but it's a little bit nuancy, so it's not like that big a deal. But it does remind me that I do need to thank my YouTube members who make this stuff possible. Yeah, gone through a lot of string even just this month alone, and I'm pretty sure that next month is going to be another real doozy. For one thing, there's just more days, but two, I got some real ambitious ideas of things I want to try, so we'll see how that goes. What else can I tell you? Yeah, lots of zigzags. Seriously, like the red on the outer left border, that's all it does. Is it just stays on that border with the zigzag knots, which is easy. You don't get lost as to what you're going to have to do next, kind of thing. That's simple, but it does make getting the tension on your strings. It definitely adds to the difficulty level, because if you don't get it right, the whole bracelet can kind of bow, and you'll see that periodically it's starting to like right now it's kind of leaning a little bit off to the right. So you'll see me take the whole work and kind of straighten it up, because if you just keep letting it continue to bend, it can have a curve like a banana by the time you're done. So you have to kind of keep making these little micro adjustments in order to have your bracelet come out nice and straight. You can, of course, block it, which is, to get it wet, straighten it up, and let it dry straight, to get it, smoothed out later on to some extent. But you really kind of want to work it to be as straight as you can as you're actually tying the knots. It'll make a big difference if you do. And that said, it's technically what's going on the side is like the straight edge technique, but it doesn't matter if you're doing this straight edge technique if the whole pattern itself wants to have a natural curve to it. What matters is the tension in the knots and trying to keep the thing running straight as you're making it. That's the big emphasis that you need to have for it. So, but yeah, I kind of looking forward to tomorrow's. So as you know, I've been using the pattern that's on the right, gets moved to the left-hand side, and then I add one more. And yeah, and I mentioned this before, I kind of try to plan out a month in advance, like all the different ones. And I don't remember what I have to mix up with this, but that pattern itself was pretty simple. And I think, no matter kind of what I throw with it, it should be pretty cool. I hope. I don't know. Sometimes you think that things are going to go really smooth and easy, and then the next thing you know, you're pulling out programmed so you can cross off what's already been done, because it's so easy to get lost in the pattern itself. So I really don't know specifically what is coming up for it, but I am kind of hopeful after having this one and having it turn out so well. And yeah, that pattern, I have used that pattern that's on the right before. I did a double wide of it, and I thought that turned out really neat. That was kind of fun and different, because each time, each one of the different segments it was either starting with the purple or starting with the black, and then it just kind of alternated and changed as it went, and then the center was different, and then it changed again. It was really fun. I really liked that. So yeah, we'll see if the next one does that or not. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure if there could have been better segment knotting. I don't think so. But I did try to kind of work it in a way that it made sense as far as following the pattern went. You know, like towards the end, I kind of needed to have the right hand side finished up a little bit more, so that way I didn't overextend the left hand side. So that's something that you'll kind of see. It seems like I go a different way, kind of coming up to it now. But that was so that way I could make sure that I didn't go too far on the left hand side, because again, it's a lot easier to see what is going on because of the way that the pattern's laid out on the right than it does on the left, because it's just small repetitions. So yeah, but it all worked out. I didn't have to back anything out or have anything go wrong, so I was pretty happy about that. So that's, yeah, so that is to the edge here. I have the bracelet in my hand, so I can kind of gauge where it is. So yeah, so now on the left, I'm being a little more cautious. Just do a little bit, see what gets done on the right. And kind of inching my way towards being finished. So that's how I kind of coped with it. Kind of made a lot of sense to me at the time. Like, it's sort of, because it would be really easy just to go, you know, one set too far, and then, you know, yeah, you don't want to do that. Yeah. Oh, and if you try this one, I'd be curious to see what yours looks like when you're done, and like see if you tried it with maybe some different colors. I had pondered the possibility of trading out the purple for red and make it look like it was all more one design as opposed to having as many colors, because it's black, white, purple, and red, right? If we reduced it by one color, it might have looked like the design was like a different sort of intent, which I thought would be kind of cool. But I'd already had the pattern together, and then yeah, I just kind of decided I would just kind of go with that. But if you're interested in trying out different things like that, if that's something you want to see, leave me a comment, let me know. I do try to answer everybody's comments, and I'm always looking for ideas. So yeah, and yeah, here comes the end here, guys. So hey, thanks for hanging out with me, and as always, don't get your strings in a bunch.